Hi, my name is Sushma and I work as the Assistant General Manager on Project Management Office at the Global Council for the Promotion of International Trade. Hello and welcome. We are broadcasting live from the Global Council of Global Business Services Visionary Interview Series. Today, the global business services landscape is undergoing a significant transformation. Organizations are moving beyond traditional shared services and increasingly embracing global capability centers, intelligent automation, artificial intelligence, digital transformation, data-driven operations, and strategic business services to build more agile, resilient, and future-ready enterprises. Global Council for the Global Business Services brings together GBS leaders, CXOs, technology experts, service providers, investors, researchers, policymakers, and business transformation leaders from across the global ecosystem. Through this initiative, we aim to connect global leaders, accelerate knowledge exchange, encourage cross border collaboration, and support the next generation of global business services and capability centers. Our Global Council ecosystem brings together specialized platforms focused on GBS and GCC transformation, technology and IP, sustainable and ESG, workforce and employment, cybersecurity, digitalization, economic development, circular economy, and future ready workplaces and infrastructure. Together with their specialized forms, these councils connect global leaders, innovators, investors, policymakers, and industry experts to drive knowledge sharing, cross border collaboration, innovation, and sustainable business growth. Operating across our primary global hubs in India, Singapore, UAE, Saudi Arabia, the USA, the UK, Switzerland, the EU, South Africa, Kenya, Ghana, and Nigeria. We are bridging the gap between raw potential and the institutional deployment. Today, as part of our visionary interview series, we are delighted to welcome a distinguished leader who brings valuable experiences and perspectives to the global business services ecosystem. Please welcome our distinguished visionary speaker today, Prasanna Amanan. Prasanna Amanan is a global technology and business leader with nearly 2 decades of international experience across software engineering, product delivery, technology leadership, and business transformation. He works at the interaction of people, modern ERP, data, AI enabled business transformation, and system thinking. With a strong track record of building high performing engineering teams and delivering complex technology solutions for enterprises and mid sized businesses across global markets. As the managing director of Limendo, Prasanna is focused on empowering SMEs through practical digital solutions. Limendo flagship MRP modern ERP platform helps manufacturing, retail, and HR driven organizations modernize operations, improve decision makings, and scale sustainability. He is also leading India's operations at Smart Host, where he is building a world class GCC focused on innovation, product development, engineering excellence, and high performance organizational culture. A strong advocate of system thinking, Prasanna applies systems thinking principles to software design, engineering teams, and organizational leadership. He also contributes to the broader systems thinking community through the System Innovation Bangalore Hub, bringing together leaders and learners to address real world challenges. Prasanna, thank you for joining us today, for sharing your valuable experience and perspectives with the Global Council of Global Business Services community. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Sushma, and thank you for Global Council of Global Business Services for this opportunity. So I'm very happy to be here and share a little bit about my journey, my insights that I bring in from my experience. Thank you once again for the opportunity. Maybe I think I'd like to start a little bit with us. Thanks, first of all, for you. You have given already a good introduction about myself. But I think I will just probably to that, I will add that in the last 2 decades, predominantly my focus has been in building software across the globe and a variety of software as well. To begin with, I focused a lot on media industry and then subsequently moved on to financial industry, building treasury systems, and then very much now focused on ERP systems. So overall, while I have focused on the engineering side and the technology side, through my journey, I have figured out that technology alone is not sufficient. We will need to look at it from a business perspective. So the big takeaway for me has been that how can we blend business, technology, and last but not the least, look at innovation. How do we bring all these three things together so that we are really able to add value? And when I say add value, mostly I mean multiply value for businesses, for organizations, and so on. So that is where my focus has been. And as thank you for also mentioning a little briefly about systems innovation and systems thinking. I'm a strong believer that we will need to leverage those type of approaches to amplify what we are already doing. So therefore, that would be a brief insight into my journey. But nonetheless, looking forward for more questions from you.
Thank you for sharing those insights. So, moving to my next first question. With more than 20 years of experience in operational excellence, digital transformation, and leadership, how do you see AI, automation, and emerging technologies transforming CSR and social impact initiatives over the next 5 years?
Yeah, thank you. So that's many questions in one, but I will try to break them apart. So speaking about AI and how it's impacting us, there is no doubt. I think AI has the huge potential for us to, change the way how we are doing things. It already has made a significant impact in terms of generative AI, enabling us to do things better, quicker, faster. But that alone is not the viewpoint. No, I think as we grow, as we learn to do more with AI, I believe what we are going to see soon is we will have a element which is a non-human workforce, and then we will also have a human workforce. So it is very important that this is we are at the moment at a journey where this is becoming more and more reality, because a lot of things can then be handled by what is non-human workforce, right? We can term that. So I believe that that is the key transition that we are going through, and more of it will happen. And when that happens, that has implication to other dimensions. For example, there will be people who will have to build the non-human workforce, right? So that is the key takeaway, and therefore we will need to then develop our people, develop talent to kind of enable that. So that is going to be one part of it. The other part is that means the ecosystem will also kind of evolve and change. It's not only about now we need to be able to have both the human as well as the non-human parts work together seamlessly. So that is going to be the next dimension. So I think from an AI, it's really exciting in that sense. It's not only about, we shouldn't be worried about, about the changes that it is bringing so rapidly. It, like everything else, like we had electricity, we had internet, we've learned to evolve. No, that doesn't mean today businesses do not operate without internet. There are businesses still that continue to do, and there's a mix and match of these technologies. So the same will happen with AI. So one should not be worried. Instead, we should really look for the positive things that it's bringing, which is that we will have a combination of human workforce and you can also say non-human workforce enabled by AI. Coming to the second part of the question, where what will be the change with regard to CSR, and how can AI make a meaningful impact there? So, given my experience in CSR, where I've had the opportunity to lead in the past India level initiatives for a large organization, I think the key thing, typically a CSR team is constrained, usually constrained because of it has a small group of people or small workforce that is kind of focused on those aspects, which means there is always pressure on time, there's always pressure on how much can we get done. So I see that their repetitive things, AI can easily, enable us to, ensure those workflows are adopted. But that is just the surface level. The real value will come when we are able to look at it from the point of outcomes. No? And what I mean by outcomes is every organization, who is engaging in CSR, uh, as much as possible, approach it from a point of convenience, approach it from a point of for follow the trend and follow what others are doing. But if we can step back a little bit more, which certainly AI will allow us to give that room, is how do we look at it from an outcome point of view? So a lot of us, I'll give you a small example. A lot of us think about scholarships. A lot of us think about contributing to digital infrastructure, and so on and so forth. A lot of us, what does if this is going for, let's say, let it be any institution, a school, or a kindergarten, whatever it can be. If it is meant to reach them, then the impact is, if we look at it in terms of outcomes, it's always it goes back to the quality of education, or the quality of services that the students are receiving, or the quality of ultimately the students that the organization is producing, and so on forth. So that becomes the outcome. So today our actions are a bit surface level, which is nothing wrong. But I think with AI, it gives us the opportunity to be much more aligned in a deeper way, where we are not just looking at it from what we're already doing, but we can do more because of AI. And there we can now look at it from a outcome perspective. Okay, what are the things, if we align properly, can we achieve an outcome which is, let's say, quality of students produced, quality of students who can then go on to create, let's say, jobs and so on. So that's an example that I'm giving you at a high level, but I think that is what becomes possible because of AI. So I hope that kind of addresses your question with regard to how we can evolve from where we are today, and in terms of AI. I hope that's helpful.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing those valuable insights. Orally, it's clear that the AI automation and emerging technologies can create a new opportunities to make social impact initiatives. Moving to next question. Through Vidyadhan Society, you are working to improve education and future skilling opportunities for underserved communities. What are the biggest barriers to accessing quality education and future ready skills? And how can businesses and governments and communities work together to address them?
Yeah. So I think personally, my point of view is access alone is not the problem. Yes, that is where I come from, because it goes back to the same example I was saying. Access can be there, but and we can have all of those surface level actions that we can take. But what if it's not, translating to sufficient depth of outcome and so on? So therefore, while access, certainly, if we are comparing between regions, I am fully with you that that becomes a challenge. But I think then the question for ourselves is, how do we eliminate those barriers? How do we make that talent, or how do we make that it is not limited to a region? Today, a lot of our common approach, we are all living in very, very large cities, for the fact that we are able to get a lot more opportunities simply, and that is what we are relating with when we're saying access and so on, other things, similar things. Same thing happens in terms of education, in terms of professional work, in terms of business. All this follow the same pattern. But I think this is the good news. The good news is that this is changing. This is changing because nowadays, even for us, in terms of workforce, we are able to rely on tier 2, tier 3, and probably far off regions, which were not possible simply because of, thanks to technology, thanks to the, dimensions that helps us. So coming back to your question, while access is one of the key aspects, which I think we are doing our parts to, eliminate and make it more accessible to wider region. The real challenge, in my opinion, for let's say, comes back to how can this work like an ecosystem? We how can different groups, that is such as the government organization, the private organizations, and then institutions like yours who are bringing people together, promoting trade, and then last but not least, institutions who are involved in education, employment, and so on and so forth. How do they come together to create that ecosystem to support? And I think that is becoming a more critical piece. which I think today, to some extent, it gets operated in silos. For example, the education institution is absolutely focused on creating the number of students that pass out every year. And then there are organizations that are focused on, in ensuring that we are able to get that talent into organization so that we are able to then work on innovation and other agenda. So this is the kind of cycle that we have, which is part of the ecosystem. But I think if we are more deliberate, if we are more looking at it not from 1 2 steps, but looking at it from a much more long-term thinking, then I think we are really creating an ecosystem and coordination, which I think goes beyond give, take, receive, input, output. No, it's becoming much more valuable, because then I think we are deliberately designing for outcomes, deliberately designing for benefits of all the stakeholders involved, and then also deliberately for the ecosystem to evolve together. Because I think that is where the real challenge is. No, I think therefore I strongly believe that this is the need of the hour. While we have done so long, and certainly there is a lot of energy and effort that has been spent by different stakeholders, against this particular mission. However, I see that as the opportunity that we have is to come work together across these different stakeholders, and then be a little bit more deliberate in aligning outcomes for all the parties involved. So I think is the biggest advantage, and that is where I see somebody like your organization, helping different parties to come together and co-create value, which I think is phenomenal, because without that, it would be impossible to, do something like that.
Thank you for highlighting those important challenges. Collaboration between businesses, governments, and communities can play a significant role in creating greater success. So, moving to on my next question, your approach combines shared services, sustainable infrastructure, policy alignment, and technology licensing to create scalable social impact models. How can organizations move beyond one time CSR initiatives and build programs that can be replicated across regions and communities?
Yes. I think for me, the first shift is to stop thinking about CSR as a, collection of activities, and start looking at it like itself, as an operating model. So let me explain what I mean by that. For any program to scale, we will need, some defined outcomes, some repeatable processes, and so on. And that itself involves various things. Like, for example, we will need trained people, we will need a measurement, all of those dimensions come in. Now, how do we separate these two things? That is, one is we have a core layer, or which goes back to what is really, from a CSR point of view, what is working, what is the standards, what are what are the governance mechanism, what are the metrics that we will consider. So that is one part of the core layer. Then comes the next part is, okay, now that we have a core layer, how do we go back to, developing, a local layer, which can adapt to different regions, different delivery models, different partnerships, different communities, right? Because that is when you're going to get scale. So the core part goes back to the very basics. What do we, how do we, provide something which is scalable. And the second part is, okay, not alone simply replicate it, but also align it depending upon that specific region, that specific context. No, so there I see that is where I think that is where we need to separate the two parts of this particular problem. So instead of looking at it as series of activities, activity one, activity two, this is what we are doing as part of CSR, look at it, as an operating model where there are two layers. The easiest part is the first layer focuses on really the core objective. What is the core outcome that we really want to achieve? The second part focuses on, how do we localize it? How do we replicate this in different regions, in different contexts, or tweak the context? So this way, both of these combined together, I think it allows us to, um, uh, basically it eliminates many things. For example, it will reduce effort on duplication. It will help us, to do better in terms of reporting, uh, getting metrics, and or rather in terms of reporting, program management, getting more appropriate metrics, which are absolutely tied to outcome-based approach. So I believe this is where I see that a collective way of looking at CSR initiatives instead of a siloed approach will become far, far more effective for all of us. And this will lead to, as I said, better outcomes. And also, this gives giving the opportunity for those who are participating in the CSR process or in the CSR ecosystem to own some outcomes. No, it's not enough if you just say, okay, fine, we will contribute to, this particular agenda or raise some funds or raise some. Well, now you're not only limited to that, you're no, now you're gone into one more step deeper, saying, hey, the outcome is we want to produce these many students who can go on to create these many jobs. So that is a slightly different, and you're part of that. No, you're part of that outcome, as opposed to just being involved in saying, okay, we will have a investment, or we will have funds that are distributed for these purposes. So that is where I think that is what I mean, when I'm referring to how can we move beyond just thinking in terms of activities to a much more defined process. One another thing which I think involve people. There are people who have capabilities, who have skills, who are interested in supporting these type of, the ecosystem, and they could come with skills and capabilities. How do we really utilize them? So I think some organizations, as you may already be aware, try to reserve time of their people who can then go on to, let's say, train others or enable others. I strongly believe that giving back is going to be a parts and parcel of most of the organizations how we work, which I also think is necessary, because this is the only way that those who have had the opportunity, who have broken the access barrier, and who have got enabled, this is a way for them to go back and enable somebody else, who is not yet who is not yet had received that opportunity. So I think combination of these two, that people getting involved in the outcome, and we also looking at it not only from an activities point of view, but much more in a holistic way, in a holistic operating model involving these two layers that I've just discussed. I feel we can really make an impact there.
Thank you. That's very valuable perspective. Moving from one-time initiatives to scalable and sustainable models. Thank you for sharing those valuable perspectives. Moving to my next question. With your experience transforming global capability centers into strategic innovation hubs, what role can global capability centers play in advancing CSR, employee agreement, digital skills development, and community driven innovation?
Yeah. No, thank you again there. So I believe, see, GCCs have this unique opportunity that they kind of really often focus on technology talent. And again, always they will have some high level of complexity in their domain, or certain, and they will come with global exposure. So I think they bring all these, and these are perfect things which are for, which can kind of, amplify local development. Correct. That is what most GCCs do. They will work on all of these kind of edges, which means that from a local point of view, we can really leverage, what they have, to bring that to enable it for those who are participating in the local context. Now, what I think, if you ask me from a GCC point of view, how can they advance CSR? For me, I think it goes back to a community-based approach. No, I think what I mean again by that is we will need to look at it from a point of, as I've already mentioned, the ecosystem. But what I'm mentioning here is instead of looking at it as, which is also we spoke a little bit, instead of having it one time, instead of how do we go beyond that? How can it become a multi-year portfolio of events and activities as opposed to, let's say, one at a time? I think that is the change I think GCCs can bring. Because from a GCC's point of view, they also have the need to, if you look at it from a point of capability and talent, how do they develop their talent? They will have to continuously, enable them to, be immersed in whether it is new technology or new innovations and so on and so forth. And for this, if they are leveraging local talent, often then that becomes useful for the talent to, share their expertise, drive these, innovation capabilities with, with the local talent and so on. So I see that this interconnection becomes, a possibility, and that is where GCCs can amplify that. Now that we are doing all of these, and often we are doing it for, let's say, other regions, we can then we have the capabilities in terms of leadership, in terms of knowledge, in terms of know-how, how we can enable our local counterparts, to benefit from that. Having said that, I also think that it's about it's not only about exporting our knowledge and our capabilities. I also believe that how can we come together as a community? Particularly, I'm referring to the GCC community itself, because a lot of us, kind of work on the similar agenda. The context may vary, but I think often we are trying to enable businesses, to leverage talent, to leverage innovation, to leverage intellectual property, and all of that happens in the context of, in a distributed way. So it's common for all the participants, who are in the GCC focus. So I see that GCC as a community coming together to, say, hey, from this point of view, how do we influence CSR? How do we influence, advancing CSR? There, I think the employee engagement related activities, which can be really a stepping stone, that I receive these advantages, I receive these opportunities, so therefore I create these opportunities for those who may not at the moment may not have it, and so on. Apart from so it goes beyond volunteering, if we're looking at it from that point of view. Then comes, I think, we are able to bring the exposure. Most of the GCCs will have a global exposure, will have that dimension. So it is possible for us to bring that dimension and, therefore, again, from a talent point of view, from a local talent point of view, equip them, enable them, uh, if not anything, at least provide mentorship and guidance in terms of, those aspects, be it technology, be it new domain, be it expertise coming from combination of these both. So finally, I see that it's really about looking at it. Stop looking at it in terms of, like I said before, only activities, but really look at it in a much more. It's an interwoven part, no? Like how we have work is certain dimensions to it, and part of work should also be, let's say, CSR. That is what I'm referring to, because then it becomes integrated. No, you're doing this, every week on a week, on a daily basis. You have something that's eventually getting targeted, in how you are contributing, and not just you as an individually, but as an organization. It creates that the effort leads to, ultimately reaching the desired outcome that we want from, the CSR initiative and so on. So I believe that is what I'm referring to when I'm looking at deeper impact. How do we, bring that? That is a really possibility, keeping GCC as a community coming together and facilitating that.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for those insights. So, totally, GCCs have significant potential and connect technology, talent innovation, and community development to create meaningful social value. It's great to hear. And I'd like to move my next question. You have strongly advocate for system thinking and applied cross software design, engineering teams, and organizational leadership. How can organizations use system thinking principles to identify interdependencies, manage complexity, and build more resilient and adaptable business models in an increasingly AI-driven environment?
Yeah. No, thank you very much for this question. It's actually a favorite question, I can say. Personally, for me, I think systems thinking is part and parcel of how you do things. It becomes, over time, it becomes, your mindset, you can say. It's a way of thinking, it's an approach. Now, our typical approach is we think of a large problem and we think, okay, let us solve it. Let's break it down. Let us solve the broken down problems to our best. And we think for every broken down problem, which we broke down from the large, if we solve that, we think our assumption is the big problem gets fixed. But in reality, that's not how it works, because there are dependencies, there are interconnections, there are more complexities than we kind of simplify. We love to simplify. We like to see it in a linear way. I do A, B happens. I do B, C happens. But in reality, it's not. If I do A, many things are happening at a time. If I do B, many things are reverse happening, in terms of it. So this is where systems thinking comes to major help, because that is the reality that we live in. And it's first thing, it helps organizations to navigate complexity. And what does that mean? That means it's preparing organizations, preparing individuals with the skills and talents and tools around systems thinking to navigate complexity. And that complexity is continuous, it's evolving. Like, for example, we are evolving through AI, we are evolving through new technologies that are coming in, which means how we interact with them changes, changes our behaviors and so on and so forth. So example, no, quick commerce, our behavior is changing. This was not the case a few years back, but now it has become part of our, let us say, behavior or everyday activity. So I think that means the being able to navigate complexities again is a possibility when you are starting to look at things, not in isolation, but look at it, from a systems point of view, look at it from the interactions point of view, look at it from the dependencies point of view. So for any organization, being well versed, applying systems thinking tools will make it definitely far more convenient, far more prepared to deal with complexity. That is the biggest gain that an organization can get. And we all know, with clarity, when we are able to navigate complexity with clarity, we know that we will make better decisions, informed decisions, data-driven decisions, which further, creates business resiliency, right? So I think this is the quick two, gains that any organizations can just benefit by simply start thinking in terms of, okay, let us not assume everything is linear. Let us look at it from, let us step back and look at it in a holistic way. Then I think if you go a little bit more deeper, you say now we will enable talent to have this kind of, capability, and then they use this in, let's say, their design work, their product work, their, process work, whatever they are doing as part of an organization, then it suddenly becomes far more valuable, simply because now you're looking at everything is connected to everything, as opposed to, looking at it in a narrow point of view, which often is we do because it's convenient, and we do not know how to deal with that complexity. And that is exactly the opposite thing that we can do when we can look at it from a systems point of view. We no longer are afraid that it's too complex. We know that it will be complex, but we know how to navigate that complexity. So I think this is how I would term, these are the immediate gains and values an organization can benefit by applying systems thinking tools. And these tools are not necessarily complex. No, I think yes, to make very complex decisions, you will leverage similarly complex tool. Like for example, just to state, if IMF has to make a decision which developing economy they should give a loan, certainly it's a very complex decision as it will involve so many parameters and they will obviously look at it from a very long time. Now, that's a very complex part, but organizations also deal with something similar. So therefore, only thing is the parameters may change. If for IMF, I'm talking about the International Monetary Fund, if it's for them, there may be, let's say, several thousands of parameters. For an organization, maybe it's not as vast as that. Let's say it may come down to some hundreds of parameters. But end of the day, the approach and the process will still be very similar. And therefore, it makes it it enables them to make better decisions, build resiliency ultimately. So I hope that gives you an example as well in terms of what I mean by, looking at it from a systems approach.
Thank you for that perspective. System thinking provides an interesting way to look at organizations as interconnected ecosystems rather than isolated functions. So, thank you for sharing. Moving to my next question. Uh, Through Limendo and its ERP platform, you are helping SMEs modernize their operations and improve decision making. What are the biggest digital transformation challenges SMEs face today, and how can modern ERP, data, and AI help them scale sustainability without creating unnecessary complexity?
Yeah. No, well, that is very true. The most SMEs, the most easiest to mention challenge is you can say that everything is um, fragmented. No, so there is a different process, different operations, and data is in, let's assume, different places and different stores. So I think that is, while that is a problem, it is also uh, can be viewed, what is the solution for that? And there I think we Limendo come. We don't say that you need to bring everything together and put it in one, let's say, one particular store or one particular software. That's not also necessary in today's modern world. Instead, you look at it in the terms of composability. So let it exist where it exists. But if you're able to connect all of them and use that information at the right time, at the, from the right place, then that itself creates value. So I think that is where we differentiate ourselves in making sure that we are making systems composable so that they can do their part, but when in a connected way, they're able to, help you make that decision with clarity and provide you those details and insights that you're looking for. So I think that will be the first, you can say, the challenge, which most commonly found in SMEs. And also how can we solve that for them? That is what I've shared. The second most, I think, is very recently, if you see that most of them have a fear of being left out, given that AI is want to need for using AI everywhere. I think that that is also a challenge because trying to use a technology just because it's trending is not necessarily the best approach. Instead, for every SME, looking at it from a perspective of what is my most immediate or top three, top five things that I need to, address for my business. And to achieve that, how can I leverage AI? That is a more better question, more better approach to take than simply taking what has worked for somebody else and trying to paste it on what we are already doing. That may not necessarily give the same benefits and same advantages that as somebody else has received. So I think these are two easy problems, and it can also be easily addressed by doing what I've suggested. And in both cases, we as Limendo, we approach it from a consulting perspective where we can then step back, enable them to see that these are the top three things, top five things that your business needs to be doing, given where you are at this point in time, given your context. And in order to achieve this, you may now use whether it's technology, whether it's AI, or whether the solutions in this fashion to ultimately achieve your agenda, and there you can employ these particular technologies. So therefore there is a proper amalgamation of both the appropriate technology and also the appropriate need. Why do I need to use it? Instead of just following the trend, you are being very purposeful how you go about it. I hope that helps, and that's exactly we are very proud about what we do in Limendo with regard to how we help SMEs.
Thank you. That's a very practical perspective, and thank you for sharing those valuable insights with us. Moving to our final question. The Global Council of Global Business Services aims to connect GBS and GCC leaders, enterprises, technology leaders, investors, policymakers, and industry experts. Based on your experience, how can ecosystem like the Council of the Global Business Services help accelerate global business transformation, innovation, operational excellence, and sustainable growth across the GBS and GCC ecosystem?
Yeah. No, this is again is a very, I would say, good question. Now, how can we all benefit? I think one of the first things that you're already doing is you're bringing different stakeholders together, which I think is necessary. And while there are many platforms that can do, for anybody, the most value comes when we are able to come together and co-create, right? A lot of the time there is opportunity to come together, but there is very less opportunity to co-create, right? And I think if that approach is kind of instilled or becomes part of whatever your organizations what is doing, then I see that it's already becoming very different from what exists. And its purpose becomes multiplied in terms of the effect that it can provide. Now, simply because, and what do I mean by co-create? I mean co-creators, that different stakeholders obviously come with different needs and also have desired different outcomes. But often they're forced to prioritize from a perspective of from their perspective of their approach. Instead, when we have a forum like this, when we are able to bring stakeholders together, we can put first, what does the ecosystem deserve? What does the ecosystem need? From let's again top three, top five perspective, which I think benefits and not just a specific stakeholder but across. I think this type of co-creation will strongly be a unique opportunity. Again, it doesn't have to be around everything. There can be very specific areas where the challenges and complexities are more. Probably there, this approach can matter. Otherwise, as usual, we have different stakeholders coming together, addressing their, and every other stakeholder is providing potentially a solution for another stakeholder and so on. So I think that already exists, but this co-creation aspect can really amplify, is what I strongly believe.
Thank you for sharing the valuable perspectives. I think that gives our audience a lot to reflect on. What an insightful and valuable conversation with you, Prasanna, for sharing such valuable and practical insights with us today. Your journey across technology leadership, modern ERP, AI-enabled transformation, system thinking, and global business operations to create stronger, more resilient, and future ready organizations. Thank you so much. To everyone joining us from around the world, thank you for being part of today's session. The future of global business services will be shaped by innovation, intelligent technology, skilled talent, responsible transformation, and strong global collaboration. Until next time, keep innovative, keep collaborating, and together let's shape the future of the global business services. Thank you. Thank you for joining us today, Prasanna.
Thank you very much, Sushma, and thank you once again to GCGBS.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.